It's Friday, the 17th of April these days, and welcome to Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. I am the winemaker for J. Wilkes Wines, as well as the brand ambassador for the Miller Family Wine Company. What is the Miller Family Wine Company? Well, we're actually going to talk about that next week, but for those of you just coming in and wondering who the Miller Family Wine Company, it really goes back to 1871, where the Millers, hey Christy, welcome back, where the Millers started farming down in Carpinteria. And basically, Nicholas, who's basically my boss, and Marshall, who are the kids of Ladine and Steve. Steve's father, known as the captain, and his wife Beth, I believe, came out from the East Coast and England, actually, and out to the Central Coast of California. And when they got out here, they basically began farming, and they have been farming in California since 1871, mostly citrus, avocados. Branch berries, which is a new term I heard. So a branch berry is any type of berry that grows on a branch. Blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, boysenberries, marionberries. There is such a thing as a marionberry, not just a crack smoking, mayor of Washington D.C. So I'm really excited about tonight. It's Friday, which means sort of like I can leave everything out there. I feel like maybe Bruce Springsteen on the last night of a tour. I've got a whole weekend to relax. We're meeting tomorrow. If you like to hang out on Saturday, if you've never come to our Zoom hangout, I open a Zoom meeting, and I will link it on my Facebook page, both here at J. Wilkes Wine Santa Barbara, as well as here, which of course is over there at Wes Hagen Facebook. All right, that's a little bit better. Looks like Jenny's in the house. Jenny Cannon, hello. So nice to have you here. And we've got Dom and Dominic, of course, one of our regulars. Zinman's in the house. So we started a little bit early today. We've got a little time. I'm going to be trying a couple different things today. Oh, I should probably continue about the Miller Family Wine Company. So if you don't know sort of my history, so I was a high school English teacher. Kids drove me crazy. I went to drinking. I went to Minnesota to teach community college. Winter came at the exact same moment as I got a call from Steve and Kathy Pepe, my mom and my stepfather, who asked me, do you want to come back to Lompoc, California, or come to Lompoc, California, and live in our house and help us manage this new agricultural property, horse farm currently, that we are going to turn into a vineyard. And so I thought I could stay. It was actually Christmas. So I went back, checked out Christmas, flew back to Minnesota, packed up my car, and decided that January in Lompoc would probably be nicer than January in the Iron Range of Minnesota. As you know, if you've ever watched the show before, I'm a great lover of everything Minnesota. So I apologize, my hair's a little out of sorts, and that one's backwards, so I have no idea how to touch it. All right, anyways, so we got the Grateful Dead "Steal Your Face" up to remember our friend Steve Arrowwood. Rest in peace. Death have no mercy, my friend. Lost him a couple days ago to a fight with cancer. Steve Arrowwood was the winemaker and the visionary, proprietor of Montemar Wines, and also a fellow Palos Verdes guy. So he grew up in Palos Verdes. He stayed in that sort of South Bay area for a lot of his life, a lot of his professional career. And my father, Don Hagen, who sometimes comes in. Oh, hey, David McPhillips. Yes. Hope everything is well with you. And I'm going to be, David, I will be doing Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits Lockdown Learning next Wednesday, and we're going to have a good time. Kristen, yay, Kristen is here. You just missed it. I was just saying such nice things about Minnesota. Like I fled in 1994 to miss the winter that never happened in Minnesota. But yeah, so I basically drove back from Minnesota to Lompoc, California, and basically became squatted, thinking I would just live on my parents' property and basically write novels and kind of be a man of letters and kind of deal with that. And so there we go. We just basically, I basically just came back from Minnesota to Lompoc, and I've been on the Central Coast ever since. It's not as warm as Southern California. It's not quite as cold and foggy as San Francisco, but the average high temperature in August here is 74 degrees. So it's one of the most temperate, lovely places in the world to live, no matter where I'm doing business, whether I'm doing business, in up by the border of Canada, all the way down to Austin, Texas, I always look at the weather back home and I'm always like, oh, that's great. I'm really getting to feel for the first time in maybe 5 years that I have roots. I had great roots at Clopepi because I was always home, always managing the vineyard, always making the wine, always doing hospitality, and I rarely traveled except maybe for a winemaker dinner here and there, Southern and Northern California. Well, now, I'm traveling. We're in, 48 states, traveling maybe 30 states a year, hitting as many markets within those states as possible. I think I did some math, and usually for the last 5 years, I've been on the road about 200 days a year. So now that I've been home for 33 days in a row, it is fairly miraculous, and I'm feeling really, really good about it, and really good in the sense that I'm having fun with the show. I feel like I finally started to hit a little bit of a stride. I thought last night's show left me feeling that I could have done a little bit better. So I'm going to bring a little bit more energy tonight because I actually did invite my friends over at the wine subreddit over at Reddit, and you know how Reddit can be. So I have to be perfect or I will be heckled unceremoniously. But I can take heckling. I've taught high school. How much worse can it be? I was told my high school students, bring it. If you guys, by the way, if you guys want to heckle, please heckle, but just realize I am likely to also maybe heckle you back a little bit. It's all in good taste. It's all in good fun. We are here to entertain each other. We're here to be compassionate with each other. We're here to get through this thing. By the way, if you expect me to tell you to wash your hands 150 times, I don't really talk about the virus too much. I don't talk about sickness. I might talk about, folks that I've known that have had some medical issues, just to remind us how lucky we are if we are healthy right now. And if you are watching this and feeling ill, I wish you all the medical science in the world. I will send you thoughts and medical science, because it's medical science that's going to get us through this thing. It is listening to people that understand medical science. It is taking precautions. So in 3 weeks, our economy might be a little weaker, but I believe we'll all be healthy, and I will still have a market to sell my beautiful wine. We always start right at 5 o'clock with our wine. Our wine tonight, you guys get the anticipatory set. The wine tonight is going to be a 2017 Paso Robles Highlands District J. Wilkes Cabernet Sauvignon Reserve Bourbon Barrel. And I know what you're thinking, and I'm gonna take this at it. You probably thought I would be the last person in the world you ever thought of in the winemaking firmament that would tell you that I made a Bourbon Barrel Cabernet. Well, it was a collaboration that I'll explain, but it had a lot to do also with the skill sets. Oh, Martin, you're not late. You're not even late. I mean, you're early. You're exactly 10 minutes early, because we don't even pop the first wine until then. But we're day drinking, and it's Friday, and I am still theoretically on the clock. But this was actually sent to me by one of the alumni of the Miller Family Wine Company, Brant Grandy, another one of my great friends. So I can honestly say, this is my favorite tequila to drink neat. This is, you can see it, it's Fortaleza Silver, and this is done by the Salsa family. They took their money after they sold out the Salsa Tequileria, and basically started making Tahona, started making craft tequila a long time ago, and really drove basically the quality of tequila up. This is like an agave razor. This is like the flavor of pure distillation, clean liquor with this little overlay of like Jalisco dust, in the slight sense of sort of the smell of cactus. So this is silver tequila. It is not ruined by wood like a reposado or an añejo. I like white spirits, even though we're going to be talking about brown spirits tonight in context with the bourbon barrel. But you can't really make a tequila flavored Cabernet, especially from a silver tequila. You could use tequila barrels, but I don't think it would match very well. Maybe a silver tequila barrel with Pinot Blanc, silver tequila barrel with Gruner Veltliner, silver, who knows, right? I mean, it sounds kind of like fun. And Michael and Ralph are in the house. Janice is here, one of my favorite wine names. And Martin, as I said, you're not late. Tony's in the house. Sharon's here. Suzanne's here. Paul's here. Dean is here. Bill is here. And Kristen with Scarlett, fantastic. Glad you guys are together. Glad you guys have an opportunity, or if you're in a watch party. And you can always start a watch party on this too. If you have some friends that might enjoy this, you can always jump in and do the watch party. I always feel slightly slightly dirty saying a few things on this program. One, being strictly commercial and selling you wine, because this is really more about the hangout, but I'm being paid by the Miller family. So, we want to make sure it's 90-10, 90% content, 10%. I'm not paid by the Salsa family, but Guillermo Salsa is the most interesting man in the world. He's half Swedish, half Mexican, and he looks like Paul Newman. I honestly believe that the idea of the most interesting man in the world started with Guillermo Salsa. So we're going to take a quick shot of tequila, make this, I promised I would bring my best tonight, and nothing brings out my best like a shot of perfect and delicious tequila. Of course, now I'm wondering, oh, there's the cap. Cap's really cool. I love the bottle. It's really simple, but it's a hand-blown, thick, slightly bubbly glass bottle. One of my favorite restaurants down in San Diego is called Solare, and the gentleman that owns Solare actually is like a 15% stakeholder in Fortaleza. So he had no idea who I was, and I had no idea who he was. And James and Joseph, yes, the Bettons are back. Yes, Veronica and Angelina. And yes, we will get back to throwing dice. Some of my weekend Dungeons and Dragons team, yes, I am a geek, and yes, I'm proud of it because I'm married and there's nothing that can happen. And now I guess playing Dungeons and Dragons is cool again, because I'll tell you, it was not. There were after-school specials when I was a kid warning you, well, I think you're playing too much Dungeons and Dragons. Do you spend time in sewers dressing up like orcs and hitting each other with swords? No. If you want to know why I can stand up in front of a group of people and like go off the cuff, for 42 years, I've been sitting around a table with dice and a bunch of people making up worlds and having to respond to how people interact with my world in a very profound and fun way. Otherwise, they don't come back the next week and I'm sitting there, behind a screen throwing dice with myself. So two things, really, I say, give me this performative edge. One is I was a high school English teacher, and if you can't stand up in front of a group of 36 kids and keep their attention, then classroom management becomes much, much, much more difficult. So my idea is that the best classroom management, as well as the best microphone, is solid, well thought out, passionate, and true content. So when I'm giving you guys this content, it's because I'm passionate about it. It's because I think it's interesting. It's going to help you understand wine. What I find is two types of wine education. There's the wine education that drives us to understand wine better and be more discerning. And then there's the wine education that I try to give, which is I want you to be discerning, but at the same time, I want you to completely forget about being discerning when we're drinking. I like these sort of educational situations where we can drink and talk about wine just the same way that we're on a golf course and we're, at the practice tee hitting 100 balls a day. And then when we go into the course, don't hit 2 balls on a golf course. Hit 1 ball and go follow it. Thank you, Jeremy Ball. He was actually the guy who taught me to just hit 1 ball and play golf the correct way. Because if you're practicing, you have a different mindset than if you're performing. So we practice until we're good, and then when we perform, we forget about the practice. I was talking to my wife just before I came on, and I'm like, well, I think I'm getting pretty good at this. But yesterday I had this one moment right in the middle of my presentation where suddenly I was thinking, and I'm just going to put that just down just a touch. I was thinking, I started thinking about, I went into a self-conscious narrative, which means I was thinking about myself on the camera, looking at myself on the camera, which is weird. And I locked up. Just for a couple seconds. I think I was trying to remember Jack Johnson's name, and I just couldn't. So I guess what it is it's sort of like golf. You practice. You can't think about the swing in the middle of the swing. You kind of have to just let it happen. And when I'm here and talking, everything is all well and good until I think about the fact that I'm thinking. And that's one reason why I love going off the cuff. I love being without a net. I do have some notes in front of me just in case I need some data that might not, fit in my brain. Carl Sagan in The Dragons of Eden, Speculations on the Origin of Human Intelligence, once called anything that is written down extra genetic information, because we put it in a form that it becomes extra genetic. Now it's no longer part of us when we die, but it becomes part of human culture in perpetuity, even though it might be stuck in a box someplace. Cheers. Fortaleza Silver. Lovely. Oh, man. Thank you, Brent Grandy. Thank you, Brent Grandy. I have not actually. We've been careful with our finances, probably like a lot of you, and we find that basically by virtue of not really spending much time in the car, and also shopping online through Instacart. We got 3 minutes before we start drinking wine, by the way, guys. And I'm going to take that time as soon as I say. I'm just going to say, I think not going to the market and seeing all the colors and the boxes and everything, we have suddenly taken out all of what all the producers of food. Remember, most supermarkets at the turn of the century, 1900, had an average of 50 to 150 items. Today's modern supermarkets are between 25 and 50,000 items. So bam, how many do we really need? So, I find that when I do the Instacart, I say, I need meat. There is meat. Boom. I need Ziploc bags. I'm going to get Ziploc bags. I'm going to get bleach. It doesn't exist. I'm going to get some flour and make some sourdough bread. Ouch, that didn't happen. But we find ourselves, we're not really just buying crap. And we're eating at home probably at least 6 to 7 times more often per week. And really just finding that we're not spending as much money, which is fantastic. Awesome. So who else is here? We got Marla's in the house. You're always on the road. Yes, I am, but not now. And, again, I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know where we're going with this, but I know I'm going to be on the road again. I know we're going to be on the road again. And I know that we're all going to get together and we're actually going to make somehow, I don't know when and I don't know how, but we're going to make a sort of day drinking fun trip, and we're going to meet in Vegas. It's central enough and I can get there from my local my local airport. So that would be really, really fun. All right, let's see who else is here. And then we're at 4:59, so we are tight. All right. James Kennedy's in the house and Keith Jackson's in the house as well. Love it, love it. Yes, bourbon barrel stouts. Dang it, I did too. There's a great one that's made, I think in Cincinnati, and it's done with Pappy Van Winkle barrels, but they have to name it something else. It has a frog on the label. It's kind of known as one of the best bourbon barrel stouts. I love stout, but unfortunately it has so much extract and basically carbohydrates that I would have to take probably three units of insulin to drink a really dense stout. Yes, Fortaleza. Mark Simmons knows his stuff. Movie with Tom Hanks. Man, I guess Tom Hanks must be better because we didn't hear any bad news, right? Nothing bad can happen. Oh, that's right. Oh, was there a movie with Tom Hanks where they talk smack about Dungeons and Dragons? But one of the best ones is Bender's Game on Futurama, which is I think a 3 or 4 part Futurama episode where Bender doesn't have an imagination, but he wants to play Dungeons and Dragons. It's really, Futurama is one of the most brilliant shows. It is a dumb show acting smart. And it's a smart show acting dumb. Rick and Morty is a smart show acting dumb show acting smart. There we go. I said it. We got Joseph, and it's 5 o'clock, so it's time for day drinking. I just want to make sure before I start, Tommy's in the house. Kelly's here. Yay. Kelly's looking at a puppy, and tomorrow we're going to have a Zoom hangout at 5 o'clock, but around 4, maybe a little before 4:45. My wife, Chanda, she's going to come on Zoom, and she's going to talk to Kelly, and we're going to have, let's just say 4:30 to 5 o'clock tomorrow is going to be dog conversation on Zoom. And then 5 and on, we're going to just hang out and drink and have absolutely no agenda. It's really fun. If you've never come to the Zoom hangouts on Saturday, we're only going to probably do like 2 more. I think we're going to do this Saturday, next Saturday, and then I'm going to start taking weekends to completely off, which means I'll just be doing exactly this, but I'll be talking to my wife and I'll be drinking just about the same. So, and Phil's in the house. Welcome, Phil. And Bruce is here and Josh is here. Yes, and Ari's loving the Smashberry Rosé. Ari is Josh's wife. She is absolutely wonderful, and she does not, I love the strength of her character. That's nice to say that Josh will not get away with anything, nor will I, and that means we have married the right women and we're going to live forever. Well done, sir. Mazes and Monsters was a made-for-TV movie with Tom Hanks. He got lost in an imaginary D&D world as a warning against it. Before Bosom Buddies? Wow, man. Oh man, you know, Tom Hanks, big, so many beautiful things. All right, let me see who's here over here on the Wes Hagen side. Then we will start. We got Bill and Dean and Paul and Suzanne and Sharon and Tony. We got a full house tonight. I am going to be on my best behavior. I promise. I got tequila in me. What could go wrong? Martin's back. Of course, you're getting your pizza. Absolutely. And we got Michael Young's in the house and Ralph's in the house. Oh, what's up right now? A tall ceiling in my house in Orchid. And I'm feeling my head become slightly elevated as a result of taking a shot of beautiful Fortaleza tequila. By the way, Fortaleza, for what ails you? I'm just saying, Guillermo Salsa, hook me up. Case a year is all I ask, and I will be a unofficial brand ambassador. But we'll be talking about wine tonight, and I'm about to tell you exactly what we are going to be talking about. It's going to be a really fun night because what we're going to be doing is something that I don't think has ever been done. And we got Martin and Dean and Lynn. Tell Bill hello if he's not watching. Excellent. And Victoria just got her case of J. Wilkes Pinot Blanc around 30 minutes ago. What excellent timing. Let's all take a moment and raise a glass to all the wonderful people that deliver stuff to us. I was talking to my UPS and my mail delivery person today, and I washed my hands, put hand sanitizer, and gave each of them a bottle of Barrel Burner Chardonnay. And I'm excited that they get to drink a little bit tonight and relax. Bill, welcome. And Cheryl and Mark are in the house. Marsha's in the house. Excellent. Lynn and Jenny Cannon's here and there. All right. Yes, Jenny, I do come to Pasadena. I hang out with Mark and Cheryl McPhillips, and sometimes I hang out with Jason Gilbreth and his wife. Let's try to connect. Remind me, and I'll let you know. When we're going to be around. And by the way, the Steal Your Face behind me is in honor of Steve Arrowwood, the progenitor and the visionary that started Montemar Winery, another Palos Verdes guy such as myself. And he passed away 2 days ago from a private battle with cancer. Really cool dude. Just had so much life in him. So one of my Grateful Dead buddies, always traded shows with him, talked about all the shows we went to. He always went to the shows after Jerry's passing. I really didn't. So he'd kind of keep me up to date with what John Mayer was doing or not doing, Trey Anastasio, all the different people that were playing with the Grateful Dead. So Steve, love you, buddy, and really miss you. And it's been a tough couple days. Tough couple days. If you didn't hear also, if you know about Sarloos and Sons, Larry Sarloos, who's one of my earliest friends in the wine business, I did the first consultation for the Sarloos vineyards out in what would become Ballard Canyon a few years after I had looked at his property, which was an apple orchard back there. He fell off a horse last night and broke his neck. And he just had supposedly a pretty good surgery down at UCLA. And he's up, he's conscious, he's talking. So Larry, all the love. It's been a hard couple days for Santa Barbara wine. I don't really want to talk about depressing things. This is about drinking and fun, but at the same time, Larry's a friend of mine. He's in some pain right now, so I hope he's feeling better. Dean's in the house. Robin, welcome. Tom Stoltman, welcome. Another Ballard Canyon guy. It's kind of a tough day for Ballard Canyon, especially near the top. But awesome. Yes, day no more. Yes, it is looking a little gray outside in Santa Barbara County, so it doesn't look too much like day drinking, but we're going to get some day drinking done anyways. All right, Keith, James, Stephanie's in the house. Dog talk tomorrow. So if you have like dog training questions, my wife was a vet tech for 7 years, and she's been training service dogs for 20 years. I don't want to put her on the spot, but we'll be hanging out tomorrow. She might choose to be off camera. I don't know. But she shouldn't be. She's definitely camera ready. But we'll be talking about dogs tomorrow, 4:30 to 5 o'clock. We'll talk about anything you guys want to talk about. Ari, yes, I gave you a shout out. Do you like the political nature of how I phrased that? Okay, so here's the deal. Once it hits 5 o'clock and we're 6 minutes late, I stop welcoming people until I get through the tasting. And after the tasting today, we're going to hang out just a little bit, talk about whatever the hell you guys want to. What are we drinking today? So here's my plan. We are going to open, fancy silver label, Makes it very difficult to see on the internet, but it is a beautiful package. It's our new reserve package. We used to have a rule at J. Wilkes that nothing was over $30. We broke that rule. So we decided to make a really badass reserve Cabernet in bourbon barrels, and not just make it like a bourbon barrel wine where we use French oak barrels and put in 3 ounces of 3 ounces of Willet or something. So if you don't want to see, by the way, I will mention one time that if you if this cuts out, or you don't like the quality, or you don't like seeing half of my face dark and half my face light, you can always come over to the facebook.com/jwilkeswinesSB and see a slightly better quality feed, but hang out. And I'm breaking my own rules to say hello to Eric, who just came in. Eric Oz. If you don't know, he's a fabulous chef down in Southern California. I think he's still in Southern California. So let's open up some Bourbon Barrel Cabernet and get to it. And then after we taste the Bourbon Barrel Cab, it is Friday, so we are going to kind of bust open a new can of worms. So the can of worms I want to open today is to do something I've never heard of doing, and I want to do a crowdsourced, you guys being the crowd, crowdsourced wine pairing by varietal for J. Wilkes. So after we taste the Bourbon Barrel Cabernet, and I give you all the information about it, and you guys are more than welcome to ask questions or ask, what the hell is Wes Hagen making a 15.3% alcohol Cabernet done in oak barrels from a very specific bourbon producer, which I'll mention. And there's a relationship. I talked with Nicholas Miller, my boss today, who is one of the greatest collectors of brown liquor, whiskey really, with an E or without an E, in all of probably California, but definitely in Santa Barbara, hundreds and hundreds of bottles. He had a story about the bourbon barrels, because he hooked up the bourbon barrels in a way that we could not have got them otherwise. And this is a perfect time for me to tell that story. So the barrels, we made 200 cases of this wine. So every barrel of wine represents about 25 cases if it's racked clean, and you get a really nice, all the clean wine out of the barrel, 225 liters, 55 gallons will give you about 280 bottles, and that'll get you about, 24 cases, 25 cases if you're really lucky. I find I order glass for 25 and expect 23. And when I get 24, I'm very, very happy. So the bourbon barrels for this comes from Buffalo Trace. So Nicholas Miller has been buying Buffalo Trace whiskey for a very long time, and has also been buying some incredibly high-end stuff that comes out of the Buffalo Trace distillery. When he's on the bourbon trail, he always stops at Buffalo Trace, and he purchases usually enough that he is a whale. And as a result of being a whale, he has access to the distillers, and he's, as a winery owner, he has relationships with some people that are high up at Buffalo Trace. He got these barrels, 8 barrels from Buffalo Trace, and 2 of those barrels are actually at our tasting room in Santa Barbara, the barrels that made this wine. And the coolest thing, I found out today that Nicholas has an extra bottle of the whiskey that was in these barrels that he's going to give it to me. And later, probably, I don't know, 2 weeks or something, at the beginning of one of these shows, I'll definitely take a shot of that Buffalo Trace whiskey that was inside these barrels. So why in the world would you want to put Cabernet Sauvignon in an American whiskey barrel? First of all, whiskey barrels are not French oak. They're American oak, generally Missouri oak, which is Quercus alba. All European oak from everywhere from, France all the way out to Russia is Quercus robur. The easiest way I can remember that is alba, white, right? Quercus alba generally is, I always think of alba as being white truffles, because alba is where white truffles comes from. So, and I also think as Quercus alba starts with an A. So Alba America. Quercus robur, you can think R, Russia. You can think R is, alphabetically beyond A. So Europe is beyond A. So Quercus alba, America. Quercus robur, Europe. France to Russia, R. So that'll help you remember. So these are American oak barrels. Difference with American oak barrels? American oak barrels generally are a little more aggressive. They have a lot more vanillin when you toast them. You'll also get little flavors of dill and coconut. So if you smell coconut, you smell dill, you smell high toast kind of crunchy vanilla, that's a pretty good indication that you're smelling an American barrel. So this is 100% American barrel, and these barrels were used a couple times for the production of Buffalo Trace whiskey. The thing I really like about this wine is it's obvious to its source. At or above threshold, you get everything you expect at a bourbon barrel Cabernet without cheating. Because I remember when we first started making this wine, I didn't smell the bourbon. We taste it 3 months out of barrel, 5 months out of barrel, 7 months out of barrel, 8 months out of barrel. I swear I actually said in some of the blending of this wine, can we put 3 ounces of Buffalo Trace in each barrel so it actually smells like whiskey? Thank goodness we didn't, because it came back as it integrated in the bottle. It smells like Cabernet, but there is that little absolute hint of a brown liquor character. There is a sort of toffee character that comes out in Cabernet Sauvignon. It's actually listed, toffee and cedar, those aromas that sometimes we get in brown liquor. Really, the flavor of brown liquor is the flavor of oak anyways. There's really, whiskey goes into the barrel crystal clear. You distill corn or malt, it's crystal clear. It looks like water. It looks like that. Oh, I almost poured another shot. I have a problem with my Fortaleza. I can say no to a lot of tequilas. Fortaleza is difficult. 2017, so it's a vintage. It was fairly warm, so generous, ripe. We picked it at night. It was 24.8 bricks. It comes in at 15.3 percent alcohol, which again, check this out. So Wes Hagen, winemaker known for making fairly restrained, elegant wines, has shown you 2 wines in 2 nights, with my name on them, that are both over 15% alcohol. So is this a stylistic change? Am I moving to make higher alcohol wines? No, I don't think so. I ride with whatever wave the vintage gives me. If the vintage comes in and everything is cool and perfect and it's a beautiful little 3-foot wave, I'm just going to kind of ride around that wave through harvest, make some beautiful, elegant wines. Now, if the wave is bigger, a different surfboard is necessary, and you got to ride that wave a little bit different. The key is to dance with nature without hurting yourself and without making a wine that does not represent a time and a place. Again, if the vintage is ripe, I'm going to make a ripe wine. If the vintage is elegant, I'm going to make an elegant wine. I want to ride the wave. That nature gives us. And I did get a question from Dean, which was, why do you want that? What is it? I might have missed the sentence that you said that, but as I do that, I'll give you kind of an aromatic impression of the wine. Aromatically, it's not shy. It is definitely full force, black and red, sort of cassis character, a lot of big ripe cherry, maybe a little bit of blackberry. It's absolutely smells exactly as you would hope that a really high-end Cabernet would give you a lot of aroma, a lot of character, a lot of flavor, a lot of richness. It implies in the nose that it's going to be a big wine in the mouth. Brown liquor with cab. Because I think if you think about, I would put it in the category, and Dean, thank you for the question, because I really want to make sure you understand. A, I was told I was making a bourbon barrel cab. So B, keeping my job, it was my job to make sure that I made a bourbon barrel cab that when people tasted, they would say, okay, I get it, right? I think, first of all, it was a popular style. B, I think we were seeing in the sales data that bourbon barrel wines were peaking. C, my boss is one of the biggest fans of brown liquor on the planet. So he wanted to taste what we could do with our estate fruit at French Camp, putting them in bourbon barrels. To be honest, part of this is because I think Nicholas Miller wanted to drink this wine. And then we only made 200 cases. So it is what we call a treasure hunter wine. So we're looking for people that love this style, which to me is a cigar smoking, steak eating dude. Maybe that's completely and totally, sexist and carnitarian, but at the same time, I want to make sure, let's see, so I don't like that, I like that. Oh, I did it backwards. It worked. The idea here is like steakhouse flavor. Like you can have, a whiskey with a steak. It actually tastes pretty good. You can have a Cabernet with a steak. The flavor profile between Cabernet Sauvignon and brown liquor, I think, is complementary. So I think the answer to me is I was given the task, and now I have to reverse engineer the reason why it's important to me. I don't drink a lot of cab, and I drink far more whiskey than cab by the ounce, probably. That's how little Cabernet I drink. But I love cab, and when I have it, it's usually at winemaker dinners, or it's usually with stuff that requires a cab, something like, a big steak with a little reduction sauce, something like that. It's going to really make a big difference if the type of wood that the cab is in. Now, I would never use an American oak barrel from Missouri, because most barrels for whiskey are made in Missouri, from Missouri white oak, as I said, Quercus alba. If I put American oak in Chardonnay, if I put American oak in Pinot Noir, I don't even like putting American oak in Rhone varieties. I don't like it, or Viognier. One thing I didn't tell you last night, Viognier is 100% stainless steel and 0% malolactic. So some people asked about barrel treatment last night after I went to sleep, and now I'll tell you that wine was stainless steel fermented, no oak whatsoever, and we arrested malolactic fermentation. This is 100% malolactic fermentation. I'll look a little bit at my production notes. The yeast for you fermentation geeks is BDX. BDX is a Lalvin product that was produced, and it was actually the actual yeast species was isolated. It's a yeast isolate from the Bordeaux region. So most Bordeaux houses will probably not add yeast, but allow whatever yeast is floating around the winery, and from 500-700 years of wine production, they just let whatever yeast has been making their wine every year in their cellar take over, and the feral yeast really takes over the fermentation. So we've stolen a little of that feral yeast from Bordeaux, and so we're using BDX. So we're again, just arrogant thieves as American winemakers, stealing European wine culture and claiming it as our own, and patting ourselves on the back as far as terroir. Now, Dean, I would ask another question, and that perhaps is how does putting it in bourbon barrels represent a place and a vineyard, or an American viticultural area? It doesn't. This is an outlier. This is an anomaly. This is a wine that we made 200 cases of. I was never supposed to talk about this wine publicly in the greater aspects of the interwebs. We were supposed to put this in our tasting room, send it to our wine club, and watch it disappear. It actually was our #1 selling wine at $50 a bottle at the tasting room as it was open, which was amazing. Let's put some of this in our mouth. Day drinking. Happy Friday. We got through another week, guys. We're breathing. We're happy. We're taking care of each other. We're waving to our neighbors. I love the kindness that I'm seeing in the world. And you know what? It's not just because, we're day drinking. It's because we're recognizing how precious life is. We're recognizing how safe we've been. And when we feel a little bit of danger in this world, my goodness, we're looking at how safe we've been our entire lives. And when we feel that little hint of danger coming, from areas and from directions that we can't necessarily anticipate, we've reacted with kindness. We've reacted with compassion. Slowly, we're reacting with science, because when we don't rely on science, horrible, awful, no good things happen. We're in a post-Enlightenment society, and I'm going to offer a toast. Here's to Louis Pasteur. Without you and your germ theory, we'd be without, the same type of modern clinical medicine that we'd have today. We wouldn't know, with the same surety starting in the 1850s that germs cause disease. So Louis Pasteur, you were trying to find out why beer goes bad. As a result, side effect, science, medicine, happiness, and a lot of live people today. So here we go. Down the hatch, take a nice big sip with me. I will clearly say it has less alcohol Then the Fortaleza. It is not hot, but it is warm and generous. And to be honest, it's very rare that I find one of the most compelling and complex elements of a wine is actually in its finish. This wine has an incredibly harmonious finish in the fact that I get a little bit of the barrel without the whiskey, definitely a little tiny, a generous amount of sort of slightly sweet vanilla. I definitely get that nice dusty tannin, that nice Paso Robles tannin. I definitely get this sort of hint of, how do you describe the flavor of whiskey? Maybe toffee and a little, there's no peat, but it definitely has that little bit of grip. But one thing I love is anything that's done correctly should always be on the edge of perception. And now what I'm really curious about is how some air is going to affect this wine. The wine's tight, a little bit tight in the nose. I mean, it's generous. I mean, you can definitely smell it, but I've smelled this wine fully aerated, and it needs some air. My goodness, if you're going to do bourbon barrel cab, I would definitely give it a good splash decant for a good 30 seconds, maybe just pour it right back in the bottle. If I had extra time, just to impress you, I would pour this back in the bottle without spilling. But I do it over the sink, so you know how safe that is. All right, so we've beat it up a little bit. I do not want to cheat. This is unaerated wine. I want to do a little experiment to see how air really affects this wine. So it definitely has a little whiskey character at the edge of perception. Definitely a little bit. Obviously, it was in American oak. Would I guess this was a bourbon barrel cab if I was tasting it blind? I'd give myself 50-50. I would give myself 50% chance that I would say this is clearly an American oak influenced Cabernet Sauvignon, because I do get a little of that sort of vanilla coconut and definitely a little of that whiskey character. It's Friday. Let's drink generously, carefully, and responsibly. One of my favorite writers, Oscar Wilde, said, all things in moderation, including moderation. And I think what he was saying is, make sure you live a long time by not letting certain things take care of you. As I say when I give speeches to my friends' kids, the most important thing about getting out of high school and college is not being beholden to a drug or alcohol. When you get out of high school and you need a drink, probably a little early. If you get out of college and you need a few drinks, that's fine. But if you get out of college dependent on drugs and alcohol, probably not the best use of your time. There's plenty of time for that later in life. But as a young person, you should always think about making sure you get out of high school and college, to me, without any serious reliance on chemicals. Whether or not I fit that criteria would certainly be up for debate. But at the same time, it's very important. As we drink, I also want to say it's obviously very important to be somewhat responsible. So you can be as irresponsible as you want as long as you don't hurt anybody. That's the way I look at it. I'm not specifically a libertarian, but in wine, perhaps I am. Okay, so this has been decanted. So interesting because the aromatics have completely changed. What I first thought I was smelling is almost like dense purple flowers like lilacs and violets, which I've really never smelled too much and the minerality in the nose has gone almost through the roof. All of a sudden it starts smelling like, like, have you ever walked in Yosemite in the summer and then you get a little rain and the rain hits the granite and that smell of like hot rain off of granite? I'm trying not to use the word minerality because it means nothing. I'm also trying to keep my pinky in. It's my new. I'm working on my form. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Yes. Thank you, Dean. Doug came in and asked what wine we're drinking. We're drinking the bourbon barrel Cabernet Sauvignon 2017 Buffalo Trace, 8 barrels, 200 cases. There's about, I think it's about 72 cases of this left. So even though we just released it in the tasting room, we've already blown a bunch of it out. Very, very tasty. How would I find it different than the regular J. Wilkes Cabernet at $30? Is it worth the extra $20? Well, first of all, you won't pay that much, because even if you just go on to jwilkes.com without a coupon code, you're going to get 20% off this wine, even if you buy just a mixed 6 bottles. But if you buy 12 bottles, your discount automatically goes up to 25%. So let's see, if you bought a mixed case and you bought a couple bottles of those, let's see, 50 liberal arts math, 40 something probably. It's probably what I'm guessing. So as I said, it seems like the complexity, the minerality, and a little bit more of the elegance comes out in the nose. I get a lot less whiskey in the nose. Maybe, I don't know, but maybe the whiskey elements are more volatile, so they're coming out of the glass and disappearing a little bit more. I would say after decantation, I would take it out of blind. I would take it out of Paso and maybe go into Sonoma. There is some elegance and there's some really dense, wonderful 3750. That's Dean Green obviously has a mind that works in 12s and in percentages and in wine. So we always appreciate that. So go Southern. Without a spit bucket, that's how I roll. Definitely more complex in the mouth with some air. My suggestion would be, if you were going to consume this wine and you really want the bourbon barrel character that you're paying for, it can probably be poured right out of the bottle and you're going to get a little more whiskey character. The whiskey character is persistent on the finish, regardless of the decantation or without the decantation. What I'm finding with the decantation is, for my taste, the wine shows less alcohol. It seems like maybe a little bit of the alcohol blew off with the decantation. I don't know if that's even possible chemically, but it seems to me a little softer and a little less heat in the finish. As I said, I did get a little, I am very sensitive to alcohol in wine, and at 15.3, I would say it's generous and warm, but absolutely not hot. And now it's really just showing a much more round, complex character. It's got a beginning, a middle, and a finish. And that's, just like a good book or even a good haiku. It should have a good beginning, middle, and a finish. I spilled. That means I'm drinking exactly how I should be. I'll just close this so no one can tell. I also thought it would be fun to double decant it through a Venturi and see if that has any impact. I'm just looking for other reasons to drink. I've been talking so much and drinking so little during these that, darn it, on Fridays we're gonna get a little crazy and loose. We just lost the heck. For some reason, my phone just decided to update my Facebook. So we just lost everybody over on Wes Hagen Facebook. So my guess is we're going to get a number of people coming in quick, and I have no idea why that happened. I'll just say they know where to go, and let's just keep rocking and rolling. So I just double decanted this, sort of. I decanted it once, and then I just put it through a Venturi that was given to me by the Kapalua Wine and Food Festival, the greatest wine and food festival on the planet Earth. Love Pebble Beach, but I ain't paying 10 grand for a table, baby. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. Kapalua invites me, pays for my hotel room, and gives me a goodie bag to die for, including a Venturi, including some Henkel knives, Fernet, Grey Goose. How can you say no to that? So this now has been increased. Probably when I opened the bottle, it probably had between 1/2 part and 1 part per million dissolved oxygen. My guess is after decanting it, splash decanting it, running through a Venturi, this is going to be up more between 3 and 5 parts per million dissolved oxygen. Dissolved oxygen basically allows the wine to go into a vapor phase. So it fills the bowl of the glass. So we get a bigger aromatic sort of impression of the wine, and then obviously when we put it in our mouth, it's going to probably seem and carry a little bit more complexity and interest. All right, let's see. And I apologize. I am watching this Facebook thing to see if I can get these folks back. Okay, there we go. Thank you for your dispensation. Sorry we got cut off. If you never want to be cut off, you should be over at the J Wilkes Santa Barbara, J Wilkes Wine Santa Barbara Facebook page over there to make sure that you won't lose it. In fact, maybe starting next week, I won't even run this off of the Wes Hagen Facebook page, so I never have to actually say that and waste your time. Excellent, excellent. Let's see. I think I've given you guys sort of everything you need to know about this wine. I would love to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing next, but before I do that, and welcome back, Mark, I'm going to be seeing who popped in. So we've got Ian popped in. Ian McKenzie, welcome. So lovely to have you. Dean jumped over here. Rachel's in the house. So good to see you, Miss Sass. And we've got Bob jumped over on this side. Yes, and Ian agrees that I was being sexist. There's no reason that a woman cannot be a cigar-smoking, steak-eating gal. I like that. I like that. I like that. Yeah, I want to hang out with my boss and drink whiskey too. I try to look for an excuse to go to his house and not look incredibly longingly at his Nika Pure Malt 17 up there, like a $700 bottle of whiskey, like, or the Pappies, because, dude, Pappies for days. Pappies for days. Yes, Keith, I like the dancing. It looking good. Katie Kemp back in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give Katie Kemp a round of applause. She is the woman who processes your orders and makes sure they goes out. Katie, by the way, a lot of people were saying that they just got their wine today right before the show, and that is due to you. So thank you. Thanks to you. And may everyone in your household, including your beautiful cats, have an absolutely fantastic weekend. There'll be a lot of people on this show, including Tom O'Higgins and Martin, who just came back, that will be drinking wines as a result of your hard work. So thank you. Yes, Dominic. American oak barrels from Buffalo Trace. 8 barrels from Buffalo Trace. Basically sequestered, I like that word, sequestered by my boss, Nicholas Miller, by virtue of the money he spends on Buffalo Trace and other whiskeys that are made within that facility. How would I compare the barrel burner cab to the J Wilkes cab aged in bourbon barrels? The regular one, I would say this wine has almost 1% higher alcohol. It's richer, it's riper. It's more going to appeal more probably to the Napa collector because of its intensity and its character. I would say that the regular J Wilkes Paso Robles Highlands District is a little more elegant, a little more Bordeaux in style, in the sense that I'm an American winemaker trying to steal the reputation of a 800-year-old wine region. I like elegance, I like restraint, I like food friendliness. I want J Wilkes to be recognized as a wine more about the flavor of the American viticultural area, not the intensity of the stylistic affectation of the winemaker, being me. My affectation, which is as much affectation as being a point seeker. My affectation is as strong as any, but my affectation is I love to taste the place in wine. So is that any different than someone who wants to make big, rich, ripe wines, running for Parker scores? No, we're all the same. There's no difference, and there's no delineation between the people making big 16% alcohol wines and me preferring to make elegant wines. But what I found is, if I was a director of film and I was making documentaries and I was making romantic comedies, and someone says, "Hey, you want to do a horror film?" Okay, let's go make a horror film. There's nothing, it's not like it's not going to teach me something, right? It's gonna have some impact on my ability to craft. And by making a horror film, will I make better documentaries? Hell yes, I will. Will I make better rom-coms if I make a horror film? Yes, of course I will, because I will expand my ideas of what it means to make a film. So because I'm expanding my ideas of making a film, and this is partially an excuse, but partially also absolute truth, that making a bourbon barrel Cabernet, I now know more about Cabernet Sauvignon and brown liquor. So it's kind of cool that way. Shelly Hickerson. Well, hey, Boulder, Colorado. So nice to see you. We're kind of hanging out. The next part of what we're doing. Jeff and Shelly. Shelly and Jeff, one of my roommates. Tell you a quick story about Jeff Hickerson. Shelly, you may not have heard this. So Jeff, you may want to put your hands at, no, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to say anything that's going to get you in trouble. But Jeff Hickerson came out to San Diego State and just happened to pull the card of being the freshman roommate of my best friend from high school. So I got to, well, actually, no, he was a roommate a little bit later after Tenochca Hall, San Diego State. Hello, Aztecs out there. But his relationship with my friend Jason got to the pack. When we got Jeff was straight out of Omaha, Nebraska, basically straight edge, short haired, wonderfully religious little, kind of perhaps Christian boy out of Omaha coming out to San Diego State. And of course, I'm sure his parents were worried, and we made sure that every single moment of his parents' worries were justified. He came back for Christmas break a changed man, because what he saw at San Diego State in the late 80s changed his perspective on the world. So I'm just saying that, Jeff, when you see your parents, apologize to what we did for you. But now, and Jeff managed to get through San Diego State at a time where we were trying to push the envelope on everything from, fun and intoxication. He managed to get his degree, I believe in engineering or mechanical engineering, and helped design the first solid booster rocket that got SpaceX into space. The first commercial payload that got into space used the solid rocket engine booster that my friend Jeff helped engineer. So the fact that Jeff hung out with all of us, that were just like having so much fun in San Diego in the late 80s in college, because I went to the University of Redlands, but every weekend I'd drive down to San Diego. So I kind of did San Diego State as my social university and the University of Redlands to get a really strong, wonderful liberal arts degree to make me the person I am. So Jeff, that's as much as I'll say about what we did. But I also remember Spaceship One. Yes, that was what it was called. And also in getting to know Jeff in 88, 89, 90, being from Omaha, Nebraska, he was a big Cornhusker fan. So all of us would watch the Cornhuskers beat the hell out of, because quite honestly, the Cornhuskers were sort of the Alabama of their day, and they were absolutely crushing back then. So believe it or not, even though half my family went to SC, I'm kind of a Cornhuskers fan, which is hard for me. And I'm sorry, Minnesota. I know all the folks in Minnesota are feeling incredibly distraught right now, but I also have an amazing relationship with Omaha, Nebraska. One of my favorite restaurants in the world, The Mertz, is in Omaha. Love that place. Okay, let's reset. Here's my idea for the next about 10 to 15 minutes. I want to do something that I don't know that anyone else has done ever in the history of internet wine tastings, and that is I want to crowdsource wine matches. So here's my idea. Every couple minutes, I'm going to say one wine that's made from J. Wilkes and one varietal. And you just go from varietal. If you know the J. Wilkes wines, feel free to vibe off that. But if you know the varietals, I want every single person that's watching this, either now or basically on Facebook after this is posted, or on YouTube in our J. Wilkes YouTube channel, or the Miller Family Wine Company, YouTube channel, to respond to this. And what we're going to do is this. Oh, Michael, you're just absolutely killing me making that comment as a San Francisco fan. Congratulations on your comeback in the Super Bowl. I thought the Chiefs played a very good game. I'm very happy for you. It's tough, but you know what? We'll see. We'll see who we get with our pick, and we'll see you hopefully back at the bowl next year. Yes. That's my last 49ers comment for the next 2 minutes. Here's the deal. So I'm going to actually throw out a J. Wilkes wine, and I want you guys to come back in the comments of what you would match that J. Wilkes wine with. I'm going to give a couple of my ideas, and I want your ideas. And this is what I'm going to do with all your ideas. I'm going to collect them, I'm going to collate them, and I'm going to make a document for our website of what we think. And I'm actually going to throw it up on Reddit too. What are your matches with these wines? And how would you, and what foods would you match with them? And then I'm going to make a list, and we're going to actually compile not only Wes Hagen's ideas of what matches with these wines. So let's jump into it. Let's do it. First of all, it's Day Drinking with Wes Hagen. Thank you guys so much for being here. Happy Friday. So glad you guys are here. So glad we're having some fun. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, Pinot Blanc. We got to talk about Pinot Blanc. J. Wilkes Pinot Blanc, stainless steel, non-malolactic, crisp, bright, great acidity, great minerality. What are you matching with it? I'm throwing down Diamond Point oysters with no mignonette, no cocktail sauce. Because if you eat cocktail sauce with your oysters, you're not a real oyster fan. You just like cocktail sauce and you want something to deliver them into your mouth, which I respect. You know, I like ketchup. I like horseradish. Pinot Blanc. What do you want to eat with Pinot Blanc? What do you want? Let's talk about it. I'll throw a couple things out there as you guys are typing that might be a little bit atypical for Pinot Blanc matches, and that is barbecue. Speaking of Kansas City, speaking of St. Louis, speaking of all these wonderful places in Missouri, one of my favorite places in the world. You know, I heard before I went to Missouri, people from there in California were like, "Oh, you're going to Missouri?" I never had a moment of misery between having some of the best schnitzel in my life in St. Louis, Salt and Smoke, Q39, Joe's, the disc golf company. I play a lot of disc golf. Dynamic Discs, one of the biggest disc producers, is right there. Well, they're in Emporia, Kansas, but let's just assume Kansas wants to be Missouri anyways, and they want to be. Everyone wants to be Missouri unless you go back to the Civil War. I won't really bring that up. What do we want? What do we want? Burnt ends. Burnt ends. You know, I'm going with, burnt ends. I'm going with the best burnt ends I've had are the prime rib burnt ends at Jack Stack's. Jack Stack's, by the way, has cheesy corn, which is great. Cheesy corn with Pinot Blanc. Hell yeah. Let's see. Roasted chicken. Perfect. You got the fat, that nice sort of or that richness that comes off of the skin and the fat of the roast chicken. I think a roast chicken with Pinot Blanc would be absolutely wonderful. I'm starting to look through some of the comments now. Mushroom soup. Now, a lot of people would say mushroom soup would be more of a Pinot Noir thing, but I love the contrasting sort of comparative sort of matching of a mushroom soup, the richness, the earthiness, and then the cut of the Pinot Blanc for the exact same reason that I think Pinot Blanc is perfect with Missouri-style barbecue. First of all, because, I mean, you know, if you've got some ribs or you know, some burnt ends or something like that, you got all that fat, all that richness, all the sauce in your mouth, sip a Pinot Blanc, just like, it's like a wet nap for the palate, which I really love. So, and I would say the mushroom soup would be exactly the same. I always think of chanterelle mushrooms as being a Pinot Noir dish, but the earthiness of the mushrooms is going to give a beautiful comparative match with the Pinot Blanc, which is going to give you the minerals and the stone fruit and that nice, beautiful cut, the verve that's going to rinse your mouth clean. So you go back to it. Yes, the Z-Man at Joe's with a Tank 7. And then Anton's for dinner for a filet mignon with marrow butter. There's absolutely no doubt about it. Pan-fried swordfish, homemade wasabi. Homemade wasabi, what, do you grow it in your backyard? Are you sitting there grinding the pine cone? That's impressive. Funny thing about wasabi, if you ever taste real wasabi, you'll think it doesn't taste anything like wasabi because what you're used to is eating green-dyed horseradish. 99.9% of the wasabi in the world is not wasabi. And if you get real wasabi, you're going to pay for it. You better pay for it. You know, a Z-Man at Joe's, even though I would rather normally go, they do not serve the J. Wilkes Pinot Blanc at Joe's. What they normally I would go with a Tank 7, which is one of my favorite farmhouse or kind of Saison style ales. It's produced by Boulevard right there in Kansas City. One of my favorite beers in the world, definitely on my top 10. The Pinot Blanc would actually be absolutely spectacular with a Z-Man at Joe's. And by the way, you can get a Z-Man and a Tank 7 on a daily special for $10, which may be the greatest $10 meal in the history of the world. Just saying. Salmon bisque. Salmon's weird. Let's just say salmon is weird. The first salmon I ever tasted was at Ivar's in Seattle, which I understand is still there. I have a problem with salmon because generally the salmon I ate first was so good. Pacific Northwest salmon. I have a normal rule that I do not eat salmon south of Portland, Oregon. unless someone tells me that there's something incredibly special about that piece of salmon. I had a piece of salmon at the hitching post. The Gray Hartley Ostini, the Gray told me his history is as a professional salmon fisherman. And so he was happened to be there and was like, we have salmon on special tonight, Wes, do not miss it. And that was one of the best pieces of salmon I've ever had south of Portland. But I generally feel that salmon, Portland and north, is one of the greatest pieces of fish I'll ever had. And salmon south of Portland tends to be sort of like gnocchi. It's either really damn good or really damn bad. And but if salmon squeaks on my teeth, I'm like, what the hell am I doing here eating salmon? Absolutely. Let's see what else. So I'm going to go ahead and say salmon bisque. As long as let's just assume it's a perfect piece of salmon. You've got some cream, you've got some butter, which is going to offset the acidity and the minerality. I would say salmon bisque is a beautiful match. In fact, I think it would probably be spectacular. And you're in the Pinot family, so Pinot and salmon just love to talk to each other, like beautiful words in a poem. So I think that would be absolutely a wonderful match, Ian. I'm in. You making it? I'll bring the Pinot Blanc. Crab cake with a light cream sauce. Absolutely. You know, crab cakes, you know, used to be sort of something that was sort of a speciality. Seems like, did I say speciality? Specialty. I will take my, just because it's Friday, I'm going to take a penalty shot. Cheers. Yeah, it's a specialty. So, and now it seems like everyone's doing a crab cake. So when I get an incredible crab cake, I actually step back and go, damn, man, that is good. Copper River salmon. Not only Copper River salmon gill netted by a Native American. That is going to be the most delicious salmon you've ever tasted. You know, indeed, like wherever you get your salmon, it's all about freshness and place. And I honestly believe cold water and eating it where it comes out. If I'm eating morel mushrooms, they're going to be the most delicious morel mushrooms if I get them right out of the ground in Michigan or someplace like that. Chanterelle mushrooms coming out of the Santa Rita Hills. All of these things are just so amazing. So, all right. So we've done enough. Irish Sea. Oh yeah. Irish, Scottish salmon, cold water, as long as it's fresh. Freshness is really the key. Freshness, absolutely. All right, so we got Pinot Blanc. We've crowdsourced. One thing you might want to do, because I'm going to be reading these later, is give me the varietal and then your match. So Pinot Blanc, I'll know what all these first ones are. But for the second ones, if you could either put CH or Chard or Chardonnay, let's talk about J. Wilkes Chardonnay. What do we want to use with a cool climate, elegant mineral, moderately oak Chardonnay, but I would say a lower oak Chardonnay? What are we eating with Chardonnay? I'm going to go ahead and throw out my favorite match with Chardonnay, which is Sides Hardware, which is a restaurant in Los Olivos, California. By the way, I had a fantastic suggestion, I think from Dominic, who said, why don't we do this sometime where you actually take a computer or a phone into Santa Barbara County wine industry or the areas and like go through Los Olivos and show us Los Olivos, and we'll kind of take a tour with you. We'll go into some vineyards. We'll go into some wineries. I love the idea of the remote. So we'll actually talk about that a little bit later. But let's talk about Chardonnay. What is your best match with Chardonnay? What's the best food you've ever had with Chardonnay? I want you to type it down and give me some examples and help me crowdsource. We're crowdsourcing matches for these wines. So Chardonnay, what do you want to drink with a Chardonnay that is that has good cut, good minerality, good elegance? I'm going to go ahead and say Sides, a good restaurant, really, really good restaurant in Los Olivos. I wish the tables weren't so close together, then my wife could make it in her wheelchair and we would eat there a little more often. My wife doesn't like how difficult it is to get in and out from a disability perspective, but the food is fantastic and the brothers are amazing in the way that they cook there. They have a sandwich there on their lunch menu that is a fried chicken sandwich with pork belly and apple slaw. Damn, it is good, and it basically deconstructs a Chardonnay. Sort of the bacon, the pork belly gives the sort of the oak kind of richness, the fried chicken just happens to be a perfect match for Chardonnay. And then the apple slaw makes a beautiful flavor bridge between the apple character in the wine and the food. So you've got the fat, you've got the bacon, you got the chicken, you got the deep fried crispiness, you got a beautiful sort of brioche roll. It's beautiful. So I want to see what you guys like. Fish pate, beautiful. We don't eat as much pates as a lot of cultures in the world. And I don't eat a heck of a lot, but obviously the virtual tour sounds great. I love it. Sides closed. Well, everything closed, really. It's a bummer if I could see that the brothers moving over and focusing their attention at the Red Barn would make sense, but that is definitely a bummer. Chicken carbonara or eggs Benedict. I like that you brought up a breakfast dish with Chardonnay. Whether the Chardonnay is sparkling or still, I think it would match beautifully with an eggs Benedict. Best eggs Benedict I've ever had was actually the eggs Benedict that they do up at Deachin's Big Sur Inn. If you're ever driving through Big Sur and it happens to be in the morning, stop at Deachin's and get breakfast. It's probably one of the best breakfasts I've ever had. And Brett, welcome on that side. We got Chardonnay, risotto, spring vegetables. Thank you for bringing up something that my wife can eat. My wife is plant-based. She's the kind of girl that if it's up to her, she's going to probably look at eating something either vegan or vegetarian. Last night, I convinced her to eat shrimp scampi with white cannellini beans. It was absolutely delicious. So she definitely gets a little bit of protein on the fly, but normally she doesn't. World famous egg bennies, yes, Jeff and Jesse. Love to have you here, Jesse. I haven't seen Jesse. Is a physician that I met through, I believe, Jeremy Ball, who is probably one of the most amazing human beings I've ever met, in the sense that he will not let. He was basically as a Harvard-trained physician, he basically went to Ghana, I believe, and just started like digging wells and doing water purification just out of the goodness of his heart. So Jesse, it's so good to see your name again. I haven't even, to be honest, I mean, you've always been a part of my brain that thinks that I do not work hard enough for the flourishing of the world population. You are an inspiration to me, and you're an inspiration to everyone who doesn't know you because they don't know what you've done to the world. Jesse, welcome. I don't know how you found me, but that's fantastic that you're here. What we're doing is crowdsourcing. So we've talked about Pinot Blanc and Chardonnay. Now I want you guys to tell me what you would match with Viognier. This is a tough one. Viognier is not an easy wine match. It's not an easy wine match. And Kelly loves the Chardonnay with the brunch and seafood salad. Roasted chicken with root vegetables, love it. Chard penny pasta, sauteed with truffle butter. Oh my gosh, truffles. Italian herbs and a little touch of anchovy. Anchovy sounds amazing, amazing. So please, let me know what you guys think about Viognier. What would you match with Viognier? I like I like the unctuousness of Viognier. So I think about food that has some unctuousness. You might have recognized yesterday when I did. How about a lobster mitts with a butter Viognier reduction? That would be my choice. What do you guys want with Viognier? Talk to me. I want to see some Viognier matches. Of course, Viognier has slightly lower acidity, higher unctuousness. You can Viognier with a couple of things that you normally imagine would match probably a little bit more successfully with red wine, because the unctuousness sort of approximates the flavor of a tannin structure and gives the wine a non-acid structure within the white wine world and the firmament. So that'd be mac and cheese, absolutely. Especially with some slightly funky cheese. If you want to get crazy, last night I made, or actually lunch this afternoon, I made mac and cheese for my wife, and I used some 18-month aged Gouda because I wanted her to have something special. So that sounds really, really good with the Viognier. Baked brie with orange marmalade and apricot jam. Christy, I have to admit to you that when I read that, I wanted to basically bake a brie and find some marmalade. That sounds wonderful. Thai food, Viognier, sounds good. Let's all meet at Lotus of Siam in Vegas. And let's go get some Penang curry, some crispy rice, and some crispy shrimp, and get it on. Clarksburg, yes, Viognier from Clarksburg, scallops or halibut. Oh, sounds amazing. You know, I mean, to me, there's a couple things that show a great chef. So keep typing your Viognier, and we're about to switch over to Pinot Noir. If you want to start thinking about Pinot Noir in the matches, that's going to be the most food-friendly one on the planet. But when I start thinking about what great chefs can do, my main criteria are as follows. What can you do with scallops? Can you do scallops for 50 people at a wine dinner where every scallop is perfect? And really what I think of is basically one of my favorite chefs, Claude Beltran, who's in Pasadena at Bacchus Kitchen. And hopefully he's still hanging in there because he's one of my favorite chefs in California. Amazing chef, and he can make scallops for 50 people, and every scallop is absolutely perfect. Next would be gnocchi, because if you can make perfect gnocchi, normally it requires an Italian grandmother making them in the back with a fork and hand forming these gnocchi. And then one of the other things I would say is a perfect roast chicken on a busy night on the floor. Your restaurant is packed, and you're producing a roast chicken that is perfectly cooked, crisp on the outside, and barely pink on the bone, congratulations, you're a chef. That's tough to do. Perfect chicken on a busy night, gnocchi, and you can do scallops, you're my hero. All right, let's start talking about Pinot Noir, tri-tip. Yes, there was a time when tri-tip never escaped Santa Maria. Like, we ate all the tri-tip in the world. Now tri-tip is getting out into the world. A16 in San Francisco, best scallops in the world. Oh, dude. And then Martin Blind, Pinot Noir with a seared duck breast. There's no doubt, to me, duck and mushrooms and salmon for a properly made Pinot Noir. I used to be, not famous, I used to be infamous for making the statement that if a Pinot Noir is too big to match with a piece of salmon, then it has been made in a way that doesn't respect the vineyard and everything surrounding it. So I think that's true as well. Katie, welcome. Katie Ramine, you've got to be kidding me. So I hope you guys enjoy a little bit of like who jumps in and who they are. But Katie, so the Ramines were our neighbors in Palos Verdes, California in the 70s. And they left and moved to Mercer Island, Washington, up near Seattle, where I used to summer almost every year for about 4 years. And to be honest, Katie, when I was a young man, I just imagined that we would end up married. Katie was one of the sweetest. She was a little younger than me as far as our family relationship, but the Ramine family, Ken, everybody else in the Ramine family was so precious to our family that even after they moved away from Palos Verdes, I would go and visit them. And I just kind of always imagined Katie might have been my first crush on the planet Earth. So Katie, what a pleasure to see you. And I hope you're enjoying life. I hope you're safe. I hope you're healthy. And I hope everything is well with you. We're talking, mushrooms. We're talking about crowdsourcing a wine match for Pinot Noir. So anyone else who wants to talk a little bit about Pinot, we got Santa Maria tri-tip. We've got veal marsala with roasted cheese, one of my favorite dishes on the planet Earth. Stuffed pork chops. Christy, you got to tell me what you're stuffing them with, because that sounds absolutely delicious. Veal saltimbocca, if I'm pronouncing it correct. That sounds delicious, Dominic. Anyone with a vowel at the end of their name that is pronounceable. Do you know that that Barack Obama was the first American president that had a pronounced vowel at the end of his name? Isn't that amazing? I love that. I love, I'm always looking for something random to bring up. But so stoked, and I hope I didn't embarrass you, Katie. I'm really happy that you're here watching, and I hope everything is well with you. All right, what else we got? So anyone else want to bring up some Pinot stuff? So we got a lot of good Pinot stuff. So let's transition from Pinot Noir to Zinfandel. Zinfandel. I'm going to go with plant-based. In fact, I'm going to try to go difficult wine matches with the rest of the wines we're doing. So we're going to finish with Zinfandel, Cabernet, Lagrein. Zinfandel, I'm going to try to go plant-based on all the last matches. How do you go plant-based with big, rich reds? We might have to throw some cheese in. I'm going to go with a vegetable Napoleon. Oh, Morels. Oh, absolutely. Morels with Pinot, Morels with Zin. I think morel mushrooms just have that beautiful, beautiful, amazing flavor that matches it. So I'm going to go with a vegetable Napoleon. We're talking about mushrooms. We're talking about eggplant. We're talking about zucchini. We may throw some goat cheese in if you do dairy. That would be beautiful. I think that would be, and then grill it over red oak so it gets some richness, and I think that would be absolutely delicious. We're talking broccoli rabe with caramelized onion. Thank you, John. We're sticking to it. Let's get some carnitarian stuff in there too. What type of meats would you like to see as well? Grapes with Zinfandel. It's grapey. See, Mark learned that Zinfandel is the grapey varietal, and he's throwing grapes at Zinfandel. Maybe if you split them in half and put a little goat cheese on them, it would add a little fat to balance the Zin. But here we go. What else we got going on with Zin? I know Zin Man's got some stuff for me. Ribeye, medium rare, sauteed with chanterelles. Oh, you're killing me, brother. That sounds awesome, Zin Man. I am all in. That steer would have died a good death if it ended up on my plate with that. That sounds baby back ribs on your grill right now. I wish I could fax you over a J. Wilkes Zinfandel, Dean. That sounds absolutely. Just pull one out of samples. You can do it. You got the chance. Barbecue smoked meats. Yeah, it's, the nice thing about our Zin, we don't put a lot of oak on it, so it's really bright, fresh, and primary. So if you're using smoked meats, I don't like oaky wines with smoked meats. I want the smoke to be either in the meat or in the wine, but not in both. Even though it's a flavor bridge, I find that smoky wine and smoky meat is too much. I want smoky food and generally an under-oaked wine. I really like Pinot Blanc with barbecue or smoky meats, but I love the idea of anything that comes off the grill works with Zinfandel. Lamb, hello. That sounds even better than grapes, Mark. That sounds awesome. Cool. So let's move from Zinfandel to Cabernet Sauvignon. What would you guys match with either the J. Wilkes Cabernet if you've tasted it or a Cabernet in general? I'm going to just go ahead. Here's a funny story is that when I was at Club Pepe, we had 30 sheep, these old English baby doll Southdown sheep that would go into the vineyard during dormancy, eat all the weeds and convert them into fertilizer. You can use your imagination on that. Because we raised sheep and we had an incredible relationship with all the sheep, we probably didn't eat as much lamb as we did before we actually started raising sheep at Club Pepe. So we started but I love lamb, especially Colorado lamb. Hello, Hickerson family. I will give Colorado lamb credit over New Zealand lamb any day because I have found that Colorado lamb, basically outperforms New Zealand lamb because of freshness and the amount of distance that it has to go. Kai Hallower. Dude, I hope you are well. Kai and I worked a little bit. I did spent some time out at the Hallower Ranch, and his father was an amazing physician in Santa Ynez, and I actually used him as my own physician for a while. And I hope everything is well out at the Hallower Lamb. But yeah, prime rib Omaha style. Jeff Hickerson, you are right. That actually sounds absolutely beautiful. Wine braised short ribs. Remember the greatest rule of wine and food matching. The greatest way to make any wine go with any food is add that wine to the sauce of that food, and boom, instant flavor sympathy. So that sounds amazing. I don't know what is Omaha style prime rib, Jeff Hickerson. How does that work? I assume it's thick and rare and perfect and prime. That's pretty much all you need to know. Oh, I love this wild boar with zin, venison, or with a berry reduction. Sounds amazing. Zin with a platter of maize mixed salumi and a variety of aged cheeses. Yes, Zin man. Yes, yes, yes. If I was going to sort of vibe off of James Joyce's Ulysses and the end of it. Beef bourguignon with Cabernet Sauvignon. Absolutely. That richness, that beautiful flavor. Of course, beef bourguignon is traditionally probably served with a nice big Premier or Grand Cru Pinot Noir, but to get that chewiness without spending $1,000, I would say a cab is the way to go. A rack of lamb with grilled veggies with the cab sounds great, and a leg of lamb with rosemary roasted potatoes. Perfect. If you need some rosemary, I have a bush that needs to be pruned. Let me know and I'll send you some. Cool. So last wine. Let's talk Lagrein. What the hell is Lagrein? Think Petit Syrah meets Teraldigo. The hell is Teraldigo? Think of a dense red wine with some beautiful sort of primary fruit character and very dense tannin, good acidity, and think of a dense, tannic Italian red wine, and that's what Lagrein's for. If anyone's brave enough to throw out some matches for Lagrein, and I got the last one on the cab, and Jeff Kralik, welcome, and ravioli short rib. Oh man, or even oxtail. How about oxtail ravioli? It's the only way I've ever eaten oxtail. Maybe someday I'll actually get a tail and I'll take it apart and eat it like a proper carnivore. But that sounds amazing. I got a portobello mushroom with goat cheese and roasted red pepper. That sounds amazing, and my wife would appreciate that. She would eat the heck out of that. It all sounds perfect. If anyone has anything to add, remember the last wine is Lagrein, and we are closing in on 609. If you didn't get Korean short ribs, I think would be just perfect with Lagrein. I'm trying to think of some of the stuff that other chefs have done with Lagrein. Definitely done the short ribs. A cheese and charcuterie platter at the end of the night with the Lagrein works incredibly well as well. Other than that, roasted pheasant with mashed potatoes and butter braised root veggies. You guys are killing it. There's no doubt, John, that your name is lion in German, Löwen. So if you brewed wine, you would be the Löwenbräu. Well done. Well, I have had an absolutely spectacular time. I hope I've lived up to what I said at the beginning of this broadcast, that I would try to bring as much energy and passion and performative character. And I hope you guys all enjoyed. It's certainly the most I've drank during one of these. And I'm feeling fantastic, and I'm ready to cook a delicious and wonderful meal for my wife and spend the rest of the evening basically Netflixing and chill. So before I am unable to maintain an Athenian level of intoxication and speak with absolutely no issues or problems, I will close tonight. And as I close, I encourage you guys to keep giving me the matches that you want, because I want to take all these matches and include them in a document that we can give to our customers. And as always, I want to reach out and let you know, as much as I've felt a lot of difficulty in Santa Barbara County wine because of a number of personalities having medical issues and or losing a few people in someone in Santa Barbara wine, being Steve Arrowwood, and also the accident of Larry Schaefer. You are well. Larry Sarlus, who had fallen off his horse yesterday and had a serious neck injury. I wish you guys all the health in the world. Obviously, as we always finish the show, if you can't be with the wine you love the wine you're with. If you can't be with the one you love the one you're with. Reach out to the people in your community, reach out to your family, reach out to your friends, make sure they feel connected, make sure they have a support mechanism to keep going. Enjoy everything about life. Take a deep breath and understand that every breath on this planet is a miracle. And for the last moment of the show, I will let you guys know that if you want 50% off all the Miller Family Wines, you can always use the coupon code at millerfamilywines.com, DD50, which gives you 50% off all of our wines and a $10 per case flat rate shipping, which is about half of what we pay. So you can get a case delivered for about $100, and then go over to, and then without a coupon code, but you want to use the coupon code because it'll never hurt you. You can always go over and buy J. Wilkes Wines, 20% off, 6 bottles or more, 25% off over a case. And let's see what else. That's about it. I hope you guys had a good time on Day Drinking with Wes Hagen tonight. Tomorrow night, remember, 4:30, we're talking about dog training until 5. At 5, we're hanging out and drinking. Tomorrow, I'll post the Zoom link when I wake up tomorrow. And I hope all of you had a good time. I hope all of you are as happy as I am that I am healthy on this planet, spending 17,000 miles an hour through space. So remember, take care of each other, take care of yourself, and remember that day drinking is not necessarily a bad thing. So cheers, everyone. I hope you had a good time. I'm Wes Hagen, and I wish you all the health and all the luck and all the wealth in the world. So take good care. We'll talk to all of you soon. Good night.